Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Comic Watchers. Comic Watchers is brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comics and media news and reviews written by fans for fans. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We have a very special guest today. We decided we're going to cover a Valiant book for the first time in the, 40 episodes of Comic Watchers. And we brought in our resident Valiant expert, Kenneth, to join us today. Say hi to the people, Ken.
What's going on, everybody?
So, beyond that, regular crew, JJ may or may not be joining us at some point. We've got a real good show for you. We're going to do Killers #1 from Valiant. We're going to do Powers of 10 from Marvel. And The Batman Who Laughs #7 from DC. But first, let's start with Brian. You got any news for us today, brother?
Yeah, some. It was actually kind of a short work week or news week. Everybody blew their wad on San Diego Comic-Con. But
it is the dream.
That is the dream.
Yeah.
I guess Marvel Studios is really trying to work on making a decent Fantastic Four movie. Some details came out about it, but nothing really relevant because it's just kind of teasers and all that good stuff. There's going to be a crossover between Runaways and Cloak and Dagger. There's going to be a Picard comic coming out from Star Trek Picard. And also, Mary Jane is getting her first... Well, I don't know if it's her first, but she's getting a comic book. Great.
I'm pretty sure it's like the first
That's all I
solo.
have news. I mean, you guys can always check out comic-watch.com.
Awesome. Well, why don't we dive right in? I'd like to start with Killers if nobody has any complaints about that. It's the one that I'm most excited to talk about. So, all right, so Killers #1. This is coming to you from Valiant. Of course, Valiant, over the last several years, has reinvigorated, relaunched their entire line. Killers is written by B. Clay Moore and drawn by Fernando Dagnino. And it tells the story of various agents former agents of the Ninja Alphabet program, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And all of these various members seem to be getting contacted by some just straight up like masked ninjas coming in and wrecking their lives, and two, by the daughter of Jonin, who is offering all of these various agents a mission to go get these burning monk's tears from a glacier in Antarctica, and all of them are promised like their heart's desire if they go get this thing that's going to keep Jonin alive. You know, that's the big ninja sensei that's trained them all. So we're following right now Ninja J, Ninja, oh boy, G,
Yeah.
Indigo shows up. And I can't remember if the fourth one showed up in #2 or #1. We actually got a working copy of #2, so I was able to look at that and kind of get a better frame of reference for where this is all going, because I'm totally out of the loop. This is my first new Valiant book. So I'm going to kick this over to Ken to give us your expert opinion on Valiant and what you thought of Killers #1.
Okay. So starting off, I think the most important thing to really appreciate why Killers is ridiculously good, is because it's a blend of like Superfly, Foxy Brown, Enter the Dragon, and like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but with like murder and mayhem and ninja madness. Because, you know, like with the daughter of the Jonin showing up, and like, you know, everybody's like getting like, yeah, you'll, you know, get whatever it is that you want. You'll be the dopest ninja ever. You'll be rich. You'll, you know, your dead loved ones will come back to life, and so on and so forth. Like the premise of that, you know, not like the most original thing ever, but when you consider the group that you're talking about, it's a bunch of like just hardcore dudes that make Wolverine look like a scout leader almost. You know what I'm saying? Like a Cub Scout leader. So to pit them all against each other in this like wacky racers but murderers style tournament for the ultimate goal is just such a cool thing, you know. I enjoyed, obviously, I enjoyed it a lot, especially even number 2, like I said, it was just a working copy, but it was still just even more just mwah. The only thing that I would have changed is if you're new to Valiant and you see like the ninja program being referenced in anything, you want to see some Ninjak because that's the ninja guy in Valiant. So him being completely absent for the most part, I thought was that was maybe a little bit of a misstep. But on the flip side, I have enough faith in what Valiant's done basically for the last almost 7 years that when Ninjak does show up, it's going to be pretty ridiculous considering where we saw him last, which I won't spoil that for anybody, but you should definitely check out The Coalition and Harbinger Wars 2 if you have not.
So, sorry, I had to step out for a second. Matt, now I understand that you didn't care for the book. You're muted.
Yeah.
You're muted.
Yeah, so my bad. Took 2 weeks off and look at what happens. Maybe it's just because I've never read a Valiant comic before, but it just didn't grab me. Now, I will say the opening sequence where Aunt May is fighting off those would-be assassins and just throttling them was great. Really well executed, perfectly paced. Extraordinarily well blocked by the artist, top notch. So I came in with very high hopes, and I don't know, just something about the setup didn't grab me. I felt like it was kind of by the numbers. The characters fell flat. I didn't get the Superfly vibe at all. I got the B-list Misty Knight vibe, and
Oh no, he didn't.
And oh yeah, I did.
The shade is real. The shade is too real.
Yeah, just the characters were flat to me. I did think it was kind of interesting to have the creepy little girl show up, and I would like to know more about her in future issues. I do think that's something worth exploring. But this, I don't think, was a comic for Valiant rookies like myself. Maybe if they'd done something like, I don't know, some sort of text page at the beginning or something like that. Not an exposition dump within the comic by any means, but something or other to kind of get me up to speed as to who these people are and what their situation is and why they matter would have been very helpful to me. But the art was gorgeous. I definitely want to tip my hat to the artist throughout. And maybe if I had read number 2, like some of you guys did, I would have had more positive feelings towards it because it sounds like number 2 fleshed things out better. But just based on number 1, if I had just bought this issue cold, I wouldn't be coming back for number 2. So that's my 2 cents. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm more on Kenneth's side about the quality of this and what it brought to the table. I do agree that it's probably not the best book for a Valiant newcomer. If you've been listening to the show, I've kind of been diving pretty deep into Valiant lately, so I had some sort of foundation bringing into this. And Killers relies a lot on the coolness factor of this ninja program from the MI6. And if you don't have that knowledge coming into it, the cool or badass factor of this kind of seems lost because you know that there's going to be these different ninjas introduced. And like Kenneth said, Ninjak is bound to come, but there's a lot more that's come before that, from Ninja A all the way through F. And I think when we get to that, that's when the story starts to flesh out a little bit more. So I think that's what you'll want to see when you come back to it. But what we're given right now, it's not very user-friendly to new readers. It doesn't really set the stage for somebody who just picked it up off the shelf. I think even just an introduction paragraph explaining what this ninja program was and how it led to Ninjak's prominence would have given some foundation for the story to work a little easier. But for Valiant fans, this one's just totally badass. Like what they're introducing with Jonin and how they're doing it with the Burning Monk. setting up each of these ninjas to pretty much, like Kenneth said, come at each other from this championship style tournament thing that they're being introduced to. And I get the Willy Wonka vibe from, bringing in all these people and here's this goal and it's just wacky, but that's kind of all I get from that one. It's going to be cool to see more come together, but I thought Ninja G was a cool introduction. Yeah, she totally has that factor. I'm here for it. She's something new, and I was hoping for a little bit more of a costume for her, but the way the art worked, it suited her well, working with her silhouette more, and the way the action sequences went from one panel to another in these pages. I thought that art style worked well and it suited her. But yeah, if you don't have that foundation of this ninja program, Killers might not hook you the way that it should, because that hook is based on the coolness of there are other ninjas outside of Ninjak still operating today. And like, who are they? And we don't know that much about them. But if you're not really in on the Ninjak program and what he's been through, you don't know why these characters are cool or why you should care about what's happening to them. And that is arguably a failure of issue 1. If it relies on issue 2, then that has to be an issue that you mention. But I thought the hook was still solid. I mean, even if you have nothing, if you're not bringing any information into this, I thought the hook was still there in the action and the complexity of this Jonin character and the mystery surrounding her. Like, that's what I want to know more about. I know we're getting to this cool climax with these ninjas coming to this the burning monk and collecting the tears, but there's a lot of cool mystery surrounding these ninjas, and that's what I'm here for. Like, I want them to flesh out each of these characters, and if they go down that path of it not really focusing on that lore, then it could lose me. But the world building opportunity is just amazing, and that's something Valiant exceeds at so well with their continuity. So there's a lot of opportunity for this to play into what they're doing. But my LCS is a huge Valiant fan. I've mentioned it before, but they like to say that every Valiant series is easily picked up by a new reader, that it's supposed to be a thread in its own that also weaves into this larger narrative. But this one didn't really hit that note for me, and it's one of the few series that I've read so far from Valiant that did that. A lot of these books, you can just jump right in, and it'll just get you excited to read more. It's not really hindered by this lore. And maybe they're getting more brave with their storytelling, which for fans, that's really cool. And for people who are just trying to look into it, it's a little off-putting. But I've been deep diving into Valiant, thought it was badass, can't wait for more, super excited. Cody?
Yeah, B.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
I'm present. Kinda. Oh, you're asking? Okay, I thought you had a question for me. My bad. I was like, why is it so awkwardly silent? So unlike Matt, it did kind of grab me in all the right places.
Oh my.
No, okay, so I don't really have as much things to say as much as Nicholas did. I liked it. I'm not actually that familiar with Valiant. I read maybe a volume of Ninjak, so it was helpful. So I was able to catch on to the story and kind of what it was about. I agree with the whole panel when we say that it didn't give a lot of backstories. If we have number 1, if that's our number 1 and you don't have any history of it, it's not going to work. It's not going to necessarily grab you the same way for longer term, longer readers. For me, but with that being said, you can go in with very little knowledge of it and still come out okay and still understand it. Like I said, I read a volume 1 before, so I had that idea, so I was able to understand kind of what was going on. If I didn't read that volume, I wouldn't have known what the hell was going on. I don't know who they are, kind of thing. So I agree with Matt in the sense that I probably, if I was a brand new reader, I probably wouldn't have gone for number 2 because I don't have any connection. However, with that being said, I also think it's worth reading more to read Killers, because it was a really good book. Cody?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have anything new really to add to this. Like I said, this is my first of the new Valiant universe. I haven't read a Valiant comic probably since like 1995. So my understanding of Ninjak is very different from the understanding that I got out of reading these two issues. But that said, they are technically proficient issues. I think Moore does a little bit too much with his dialogue. I think there were points where it was like, okay, I see that you're trying to make this reader friendly, and in doing so, it kind of made some of the sections a little.
World is like 17 different future books rolled into one. So if you can make that number one user friendly, there's no reason why this one shouldn't have been easy to do as well. And same in Punk Mambo as well, which shout out to Punk Mambo because that book is fire. But anyway, but yeah, other than that though, also I didn't give props to the art, which I should have done earlier. But other than that, I think we're kind of all on the same page. And if you're still listening to me ramble about Valiant right now, then you should definitely go buy Killers because you will like it.
Yeah, I mean, even on a jumping on point, I still think it's pretty cool. I would check it out either way because I think, yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, our first Valiant book in the books. Powers of 10. Kenneth, did you have a chance to read Powers of 10 number 1?
Is that the one where Sabretooth gets hoed? Or is that the other one?
Yeah, that's the other
No,
one.
I'm
That's
thinking of-
House
the other
of
one.
X.
My bad. No, I didn't read that one yet.
Fair enough. Just a
Yeah.
heads up, there may be spoilers, so if you want
that's
to
good.
mute
Go
us,
for it.
I don't
Go for
mind.
Because it's on my list, and I'm past the date.
Right. So Powers of 10, the X is 10 in this one. Number 1 is coming to us from Jonathan Hickman and R.B. Silva on art. This is the companion, co-headliner to House of X. So in House of X, you've got this particular time frame of the mutants establishing their own sovereign nation, creating their own culture. Powers of 10 is taking us through 4 distinct time periods. Through what they're calling Year 1, which is the birth of Xavier's dream. 10, which is the current moment. 100 years in the future, and 1,000, right? So Powers of 10 are playing on the math idea, which is very much so in Hickman's wheelhouse. In each of these 4 distinct eras have a lot of stuff going on. By the time you hit 100, there's almost no mutants left. In 1,000, you've just got one mysterious figure known as the Librarian talking to a nerfed version of Nimrod, and we have no idea what happens, like what the rest of humanity looks like at that moment. And then, of course, you've got our current moment. What I found most interesting was Year 1, right? Because this is clearly like it's Professor X pre-wheelchair talking to Moira, only I'm pretty sure it's not Moira. And the seeds of the dream are germinating. And Moira's throwing spoilers at freaking Chuck left and right. Like, this is a really hard series to recap. I didn't really think about this too hard before I came into it, but it is really difficult because there's so much going on. There's got to be 24 plot threads that are carefully being woven back and forth, tying into House of X, and then diverging from House of X. You've got this notion of 100 years from now, we have the leftovers of a sinister breeding program where he was breeding mutants with the powers of Omega mutants. So, like, they would have 5 Omega mutants power sets ingrained into their DNA. And sometimes they failed. They had, like, specific failure rates that would lead them to being pacifists, which I think is fascinating. Like, no, honey, you can't. Not right now, honey. Bye. She really wants to talk to you guys. But she has no frame of reference. She'd be like friggin' Donnie from The Big Lebowski.
There are rules.
Well played, sir.
So we've got this eugenics program, right? Of course, it's sinister. Of course, there's eugenics. And the history of that eugenics program is being slowly laid out, and how it fails, how everything goes wrong, how the humans retake the world with mutants, and robots and their own breeding programs. Like it is all over the place, but it is a very organized chaos. So I don't know. I think JJ is joining, or Darth Vader.
Trying to. Sorry. Sorry, I had to make dinner real quick. What's up, fellas?
Hey, what's up, JJ? Hey, so we just recapped sort of Powers of X or Powers of 10. What'd you think?
It was fine. I wish that it had made more sequential sense in a it had made more sorry, I'm like 3 seconds in and I'm already fucking it up. So I wish it had made more sequential sense in the context of the larger story, and it very well may down the line, but it was a bit of a cheat to make it a first issue in my mind. I know people going into it were not expecting to be taken 1,000 fucking years in the future. And I mean, I guess it's right there in the name, so you know, Hickman can definitely wave his big, you know,
penis.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it.
I was helping you out.
You got to bust out the big dick energy and tell everybody how smart he is. I did think Bethany made a great point in her review of, is he now implying that all X-Men canon takes place within 10 years? Because that's ridiculous. And likewise, it was just odd the way that it mainly centered on the year 100. That maybe these characters have been touched on before, but as far as I can tell, they all seem to be new or newish characters. So, you know, it is a very Hickman thing to do, to drop his council of reeds in the middle of the room and expect everybody to just know what's going on, or, you know, drop a sphere in Switzerland and have it hyper evolve 1,000 years and then come out and attack humanity. Oh, wait, he's having mutants declare sovereignty? Where have we heard that before? Oh, wait, Hickman's Ultimate. Time travel fuckery? Where have we seen that before? Oh, wait, Hickman's Fantastic Four. Stop me if you've heard this one before. The X-Men are part of a bleak alternate future, or possible future, in which mutants have been hunted to near extinction by Sentinels and humans combining forces. Is that a thing that has happened before? It sounds like it has. It was a fine book, but I'm pretty disappointed in it. I honestly am fully ready to eat these words in 5 issues. Like, it's gonna, knowing Hickman, it's gonna turn out to be something. One sec, Jack. It's gonna turn out to be something amazing, and that'll be great when it does. But slapping a big number 1 on it and then charging, was it $7, $6, is a little bit insulting, especially after last issue, leaving some really interesting points and then ending with a reading order that insists that this issue be read after last issue and not as its own thing. I think that's what I think. I wasn't planning on coming, so I didn't really organize my thought.
That's okay, JJ. We appreciate having you here. Matt.
So I'm going to briefly jump back just a little bit because I wasn't here last week to talk about House of X, but House of X, while it picked up on a lot of the same ideas that Grant Morrison did when he first kicked the X-Men in the ass way back in the bygone age of 2001 with New X-Men. It had a lot of the same themes, but it also accomplished the same mission in that it redefined what the X-Men were in the modern context, and also within the context of the Marvel Universe. However, in that, it still has a lot of the same recognizable, I don't want to say tropes, but a lot of familiar faces. Okay, Magneto, Jean Grey, sexy Professor X, are all up and dancing around. Sabretooth, Mystique, you know, mutants are feared and hated. The world's against them. Okay, a lot of familiar drum beats there. Powers of 10, which I was calling Powers of X until about 5 minutes ago.
Same.
And I did sneak online to do a Google search to verify that Cody's not crazy. And Cody's not crazy. It is Powers of 10. So, all y'all nerds out
that
there,
little nugget of
Powers
fuckery
10.
a few days ago. Or a couple weeks ago.
But by comparison, though.
Oh no, despite having the exact same logo, it's actually Powers of 10.
Powers of 10, by comparison, is the what the fuck out of left field that has almost no familiar faces, for the bulk of the book anyway, and sets up this grand, sweeping, 1,000-year space opera, or evolutionary space opera that I don't think anybody saw coming. I mean, if there's anyone working in comics now to pull something like this off, it is Hickman. And I know some people don't like his trademark little text bits and charts and graphs and what have you and codexes that he puts in his comics. I love that stuff. That's catnip for me because it's different. Nobody else does it. If suddenly a dozen other writers were trying to do that, I would probably have a different opinion. And, well, other than the fact that they would all suck at it by comparison. But Jonathan Hickman is one of the most deliberate writers I've ever read. I mean, he goes past Alan Moore in terms of his meticulousness and how far out and how densely he plots things. So I'm as an old school X-Men fan, I'm really excited to see where this is going. The art was awesome. Was I a little let down? JJ actually hit on something that I had picked.
I think it just froze up.
Too many heads in the boxes.
Cody, you're muted.
What's in the box? I thought if anything, I was going to get a reaction out of Matt and do that.
Since we lost Matt temporarily, why don't we kick it over to Brian?
Yeah. Powers of 10. So it was pretty good. The art was pretty good.
I love the colors.
I did like the colors. I mean, I really, really enjoyed
Very, very colorful book.
It was a very colorful book. I did actually like that. It did take us into 1,000 years. I did like the different times, all the time frames. It was pretty cool that way. I was actually trying to think of something else that I was thinking, but I couldn't speak fast enough for my brain to catch up. I liked it. I don't think it should be a number one. It kind of goes along with the Killer's book. Like, if you don't have a reference to the X-Men, that would be a horrible jumping on point. So I hate when they do number ones and don't have at least a little bit of a story on it. But what do you do?
Well, last issue I said basically my feelings with it were if you read Uncanny X-Men, go to hell. I'm going a little bit lesser on the swearing scale. If you read Age of X-Men, go to hell. If you read X-Men Gold, go to hell. If you had read X-Men Red, go to hell. If you read X-Men Blue, go to hell. And now, if you read House of X last week, you go to hell too.
See, I totally just...
half of the things you just mentioned were good.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, this was the plan. This was the plan from day one. This is how they have pitched it. They have been marketing.
Yeah, but now
it
you just sound like a Tom King supporter.
Whoa.
Zane was planning it from issue 20. Zane was planning it from issue 12. What?
Whoa.
Yeah, but this was
announced. We're all friends.
Better than Tom King.
Last fall.
We're all friends.
He had a 30-year plan for the X-Men, and it was going to launch with 2 simultaneously running 6-issue minis that were intertwined. So, I mean, this shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. Like, this is the plan. This is what we knew was going to happen, and now it's happening, and now people are going to complain? Really? Man, shut the fuck up with that garbage. That's ridiculous.
Well,
That's ridiculous.
Well-
JJ, check yourself.
Two essentially unrelated miniseries.
But they're not unrelated. We just don't see the connections yet. They are related.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, if you look at the timeline structure set forth in Powers of 10, House of X is taking place in the X+10 or however it is era. You know, the modern era, so to speak.
I guess it'd be X to the first, because 0
X
would be
to the first,
X.
yeah. Whatever.
X squared.
Sorry,
would
I don't
be
know
X.
how long I rambled before my
And-
internet just decided to crap itself. So.
You said JJ hit on a great point, and I was really curious.
Oh, that's where it cut out.
Yeah, that's where we lost you.
Yeah, JJ hit on a point where it felt like it was the book was hitting on some very familiar territory and themes for an X-Men story, and that's true. But a lot of that stuff is so baked into the X-Men at this point, it's almost impossible not to hit on some of those themes. As long as it's well executed and not just telling me the same story over and over again, that doesn't bother me, because I know what makes the X-Men tick. So, I think of the two, like, I don't think very many people are going to, or at least casual fans, are going to read one book and not the other. Although if they were,
I'm thinking about it after reading that one.
Well, I mean, you're going to probably just get half the story, but
The good half.
we don't know yet. Like, Powers of 10 was not as good just on issue-to-issue comparative basis as House of
But
X.
we're not talking about Powers of 10 1 through 6. We're talking about Powers of 10 number 1.
Yeah, I know. So am I. I'm saying on an
I know.
issue-to-issue comparison, no, Powers of 10 wasn't as good as House of X, but it's also a very, very different beast in terms of storytelling. So, you know, it's basically just setting the table.
Mm.
Oh, JJ was ready for the dinner.
Well, if House of X set the table, then Powers of X put a rug under the table and then walked away and then came back.
Put the birthday cake on the table, son.
They threw the pizza at the table from 10 feet away. It's like a ninja star.
What about you, Nick?
Wild card!
Yeah, I'm hungry now, guys.
There's a big ass pot of mac and cheese sitting 3 feet away from me, and I'm just eyeing it.
Just get at it with the spatula, bro. Just shovel it in.
Nick, what were your thoughts on the book?
Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to add. It's kind of too early to be judging this book so harshly. I think it's not the type of storytelling it's going for. If you want something that's spelled out and just right there that is easily accessible, then they have that in the other book. I think they're covering their bases with this one, and that's what makes it expansive, and that's what's going to make it successful. I think Hickman knows what he's doing, and this is a book that requires your participation, and that's not going to please everyone, and that's just how it is. But I think it's done excellently. This is a technically proficient book that it's hard to knock. It hits all the right notes. It just needs more time, and I'm willing to give it that time. Cody?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I actually preferred the storytelling in this one to House of X. I just thought it was even though it was more disjointed, like it felt like it was a more enjoyable story. Like, because the first one is, like I said, like JJ, to your point, is retreading a lot of things, and Matt, your point too, like a lot of stuff that we saw in Morrison's run, a lot of stuff that we saw in Claremont's run, to be perfectly honest. Powers of 10 just felt so fresh and so new and so shocking and so weird, and I like my X-Men weird. I do. So, I mean, I thought this was a really interesting launching point. You can't separate the two. Not meant to. Shouldn't do it. It's not going to make any sense at the end. I think you might as well just look at this as a 12-issue maxi series, X-Men, and then 2 separate arcs within that maxi series. But at the end of the day, I'm along for the ride. I'm enjoying it. I thought Silva's art was inferior to Larraz's art. but still proficient. It wasn't anything that was like, oh my god, this is terrible. I don't want to read this. But yeah, worth mentioning. Pepe Larraz is a rising star in this industry. I think Silva is someone that will look back and be like, he did that book? Cool. And that brings us to our last book, which is The Batman Who Laughs #7. This is from DC. Scott Snyder writing, Jock on art. This is the climax of the Batman Who Laughs story arc that began with Bruce getting infected with the Joker virus that will inevitably turn him into the Batman Who Laughs. He takes it on and doesn't cure it in order to become enough like the Batman Who Laughs to stop the Batman Who Laughs. I'm going to get real sick of saying the Batman Who Laughs real fast. I do want to lead off on this one because I have to go. So I assume somebody else will pick up the what have you been reading and what are you looking forward to for me. This miniseries started out as something that looked very fan servicey, like, you like the Batman Who Laughs? I'll give you the Batman Who Laughs, which is very much so in Snyder's wheelhouse. Snyder lives to please, and typically does. I didn't care for the Batman Who Laughs in the first place, but I was like, whatever. I like Scott Snyder. I'm along for the ride. Let's check it out. It has turned into a launching point. And that I didn't see coming. It's turned into a launching point for the upcoming Secret Six, where we've got 6 Jokerized, or whatever you want to call it, heroes. Like, we know that Shazam is going to be a part of that. We know that Hawkman is going to be a part of that. Basically, everyone that I love is going to be a part of that, and I'm really not interested in it, so that sucks. And at the end
who are your other picks? Who do you think?
Well, Commissioner Gordon, obviously. Spoiler alert, but that's happening. I don't know who the other picks are. I mean, if I don't know. I don't even want to think about it, really. This wasn't a bad book, but it felt so forced at the ending to make it into something that it wasn't, when it was just a look at how much Joker is in Batman and how much Batman is in Joker. I thought that was a really interesting take, and then we barrel towards the end, and the ending just completely fell flat for me. Jock's art, of course.
The magic was inside you all along.
Yeah.
I know you can't see red. There were some red letters towards the end.
Oh, yeah. I could see that they were not there. This was also a very difficult book for me to read because I am red-green colorblind, and blue-green colorblind as well. So, I mean, this book was work.
Cody literally sees in shades of gray.
So it was a nightmare of a book for me to read. It was moderately pleasant. Pick up the trade if you're interested. I wouldn't go back hunting for the floppies. It doesn't get a recommend from me unless you just went nuts over the Batman Who Laughs. If you did...
It does seem like it might be required reading for Batman Superman, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, but Batman Superman isn't required reading either, so it doesn't matter.
I gotta read a Batman book somewhere.
I have
all this nonsense.
I have a distinct feeling that Williamson is not going to deliver the good Batman book.
That's true. I guess it's that Bendis book, which is what, like 3 issues?
6. It's 6. We can get 6 solid months of Bendis Batman to bail us out of our Batman funk. And now, on that note, I have to bounce. I'm going to turn it over to Nicholas. Nick.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always a huge fan of Snyder, and especially his work on Batman, so this is one I'm excited for, but it feels like, with The Last Night on Earth going on, being marketed as Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's last take on Batman, Snyder feels like he's trying to distance himself from Batman as this chapter comes to a close. And the Batman Who Laughs feels like he's checking off boxes that he wanted to do with this character. It was a character he introduced in Dark Knight's Metal that blew up out of nowhere, and it feels like this series was kind of an attempt at fan service. and they stumbled into a good story. And on that note, I think that's where the series works well. If you're a fan of what Snyder's done with Batman and his type of storytelling and this mythos, it'll work well for you and it'll hook you. But outside of that, it's a little too fan servicey to really hook the average reader, I guess. There's a lot of complexities that are going to be lost on just a casual read through. It's very comic book, if that makes sense. This is only a story you're going to find in a comic book, and Cody's explanation kind of sets that stage. It's a tough one to summarize because you have to know a little bit about these characters, but you also have to know the story that Snyder's been playing at for a while now and why all of this matters. So while it's good, it's not very accessible. And that's an issue even going into the last issue in issue number 7, which I'm assuming got extended. I missed out on that news.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 6, and then they added an issue, which
I noticed
seems unnecessary, honestly.
And you get to the end, and it feels like
does 7?
got to the 7th issue. And I thought, this didn't really 7th. It could have done fine in 6 and still hit all the notes that it did. I mean, I understand that they wanted to make this last as long as possible because the Batman Who Laughs sells. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a character that people like, and why wouldn't you want more of it? So I think that was the whole point of this series, really. And they just happened to tell a good story, so it entertained me. I was lost a little halfway through it, but they wrapped it together pretty neatly at the end. And I wasn't a big fan of the cliffhanger that's going to lead into Batman Superman, but I get it. That's how these big two companies work. That's what keeps the ball moving. And, most of the people are going to be like, oh, I know what's going on in that, so I'm going to pick up this number 1. And the trend continues. But I thought for what they were trying to do with this series, they succeeded. I mean, you got what you wanted out of it, right? I mean, the Batman Who Laughs is very prominent in this. There's a lot of gore, things I didn't expect. It's very horror influenced, and it's a psychological thriller. I thought that worked really well for these characters and Snyder's writing in particular. So it was super cool. And
I did think he was going to kill that kid for a minute. I was like, oh shit!
You're like, are they going to do that?
I was like, damn, okay, this book got real dark real fast.
Yeah, and just the fact that they could lead you there, like, that was a success on this series.
Although Alfred did send him back to the Dark Multiverse, which means he did basically doom him to death. Because the Dark Multiverse is all universes that are doomed to fail. So that Bruce Wayne was literally going to die. But they did make sure to mention the point that's never been mentioned before, that Dark Multiverse cast-offs do not survive in the Prime Universe. Which I guess is a thing that they said to make it so they had to send him back. Can you imagine a 2 Bruce Wayne, Batman and Robin team? Young Bruce Wayne and old Bruce Wayne?
Please.
Holy shit. No,
Please,
no, here we go. Hear me out. Dick Grayson is Batman and Bruce Wayne is Robin.
I would buy that. Nightwing bias is that strong that I would buy that.
It's the Grant Morrison Batman and Robin series all over again. Serious Robin, silly Batman.
I would love it. I would love it. Couldn't be any worse than
so damn good.
All right, well, I guess, Jack, what did you think of the series?
Well, you let Ken go.
Ken,
well,
all
right. I'll try to keep this as optimistic as possible because I had some issues with Snyder Batman, primarily like as Jack just mentioned. A lot of what Snyder did on Batman is very similar to what Grant Morrison did on Batman already, and for some reason nobody ever mentions that. And
I mention it all the time. He's
I know.
light.
We're like two. You know what I'm saying? We're like never nudes, like on Arrested Development. There's dozens of us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But so if you ignore that,
maybe some other kind of whipping cranes or something.
Yeah, exactly. I do enjoy. I actually agree a lot of what Nick had to say about the fan service and the Batman Who Laughs, and the fact that he sells, and that Snyder. I feel like this is the Batman Who Laughs, and the way he's gone about working with it is like him trying not to become like Rat and like Round and Round or something, where he doesn't want that to be like the thing that sticks, because Joker, period, like
Motorhead playing Ace of Spades
are super hype about, like, you know, they have like whole doctrines about like the Joker, and they've never read a comic book. Same with Batman. So you put the two together, and it's just like you're literally printing money at that point. But considering how much of a meme and a joke something like that, no pun intended, could be, I think Snyder's done really well with the concept. I also kind of agree with Cody on the fact that I'm kind of pissed that Secret Six is going to be like all these characters I like, because I really do not care about the Batman Who Laughs, if I'm being completely honest. I love Batman. Do not like the Joker. I know that I will probably have people with tiki torches in my front yard for saying that out loud.
I'm reviewing on the side. I'm reviewing Batman Superman. It's gonna be
I do not envy you. Batman Superman has not been good since Sam Loeb died, and that was in like 2000.
Okay, Cody got so mad at me for saying there hasn't been a good Batman Superman series in years.
Yeah,
like,
there has.
I haven't really liked one since.
Okay,
yeah, well,
to an extent, but I didn't like it really, to be, if I'm being completely honest. But anyway, all right. So going back to Batman Who Laughs, the 7 issues unnecessary, but I mean, it is what it is, and
Brian's deep throating a pen.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to like pay attention, but also keep my hands out of my pants at the same time. Just kidding. But anyway, so Lord forgive me for that. But anyway,
now he's doing it more.
But anyway, so the thing of it is that like
the best is the Podbean listeners.
The best thing I can say going forward is that I do hope that I'm wrong about Batman, Superman, and Secret Six, because I would say, like, as a trade somewhere down the line, I would probably maybe read the Batman Who Laughs mini again. You know, if I find it at like Books A Million for like $2 or whatever crazy, you know, lovable deal that Books A Million always likes to do. But would I like recommend it? No. Will it ever be like on my top 100 all-time best reads? No. But that's more because I'm not the target audience for it, because of my lack of, you know, care for Joker-related things in some elements of Snyder's run, although I can be unbiased and admit that his Batman stuff is really good. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
That's fair.
Okay. Well, hey, Brian, did you read it? What do you think?
It was cool. I mean, I just read number 1 and number 7. So.
And you probably got as much story as everyone else.
Yeah.
Well. Wait a minute. There's Batman with guns running around now.
But the horror factor of it, HO, not WHO, factor of it, like the art was pretty cool, like seeing how horrific it looked. Yeah, I mean, it is what it was, and it's cool.
Okay. No.
It was neat.
JJ, did you have any more to add, or have you shot
sure.
on this one?
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I thought the series was fine. What's that? Oh, you want to go? You want me to go?
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were coming over to me, and then you kept going. My bad. Go on.
Oh, my bad. All right, I will continue to go. I thought the series are we doing the whole series or just the issue? I thought both were fine.
I mean,
I thought both were acceptable. I didn't think either was anything particularly like mind-blowing. And as Ken said, the Batman Who Laughs is just free reign you could print nonsense. You could print a bunch of gibberish. You could recite a nursery rhyme over and over again for like basically no reason. Did they meet on a boat? Did they meet on the street? That's something for a different. That's something for a different book. But the Batman Who Laughs, at its core, basically, it turned into a '80s movie about friendship and stuff out of nowhere, kind of. And that this whole time we've been following Bruce's slow slide into being the Batman Who Laughs. How he's not the Batman Who Laughs, so he's not gonna be the Batman Who Laughs until he kind of starts to be the Batman Who Laughs, and then he's not the Batman Who Laughs. And it turns out the reason is because the power was inside him all along. Did the Joker do it? Did he do it? We don't know, but he probably did it. But he might not have done it. I don't know. Likewise, the kid Bruce Wayne was. We used embryonic stem cell to reverse it all, so literally none of it mattered. All this tension. The Joker shot someone? Did he shoot Batman Who Laughs? Did he shoot Batman? I don't actually know. And at the same time, we did reveal definitively a third member of the Secret Six, therefore giving the Batman Superman series half as much suspense. So that is an exciting part.
Half as much suspense is twice as much suspense for Williamson as any other writer might produce. So,
well, I mean, we've got a series that should be a good series, and then
on paper,
playing off a series that was a great series, and neither are probably going to be that exciting. And this, likewise, was not that exciting. I guess that's all I have to say about that. Read it if you like the character. Don't if you don't. If you like Snyder on Batman, don't.
I can't throw too much more into the conversation about this book than any of you guys did. It's extremely fan servicey, and it's Snyder and Jock. However, I don't feel like either writer is firing on at full force in this series. Jock's art, it wasn't bad, but on his standard, it just wasn't as good as I've seen him do. I will say just about the character, the Batman Who Laughs in general, I'm fucking sick of him already. I'm just done. And here's the thing, I didn't hit me till today because I felt this way about a character before. Who was it? Oh, it was Carnage. DC has finally come up with their own answer to Carnage. And as soon as I was like, oh my God, that's totally it. It's a dark version of the hero, the darkest version imaginable, really. And they've just...
It's actually kind of brilliant.
And now they're blowing us up with him. Like, raise your hand if you were there in the 90s during Maximum Carnage. Oh, that was not a good time. Yeah. Ken knows.
Yeah.
All of a sudden...
Maybe not for you.
14-part story of Spider-Man fighting Carnage. 14! It's nonsense. Yeah. And it just... No, I'm over the Batman Who Laughs. I do think that this series had... What'd you say, Ken?
I said you couldn't have put that more perfectly. I think you just unveiled my annoyance, aside from the fact that I don't like the Joker. But that was the most accurate way to put it, is that he's literally DC's Carnage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually perfect. I couldn't. He's even kind of gruesome, just like Carnage. He kills the crap out of people.
Carnage next week, so that will be fun. But yeah, I read this series. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's kind of middle of the run Snyder. I mean, if you enjoyed Dark Knight's Metal, you'll probably enjoy this. At least
I like Dark Knight's Metal. I like this last.
I really liked Metal.
I enjoyed Metal. I thought it was fun. I thought it went on for too long, and
the delays killed the momentum of it in the last couple.
That same feeling to a lesser extent about this series. You know, it is what it is. So that's my thoughts on the Batman Who Laughs. Any final thoughts on those guys before we move on to the last segment?
No, I think you pretty much nailed the Carnage.
It was very red. It wasn't. Honestly, it wasn't Jock's best either. Like, I think his line work is fine. Did he color this one? No, was
No,
that
it was Darren Bennett, I think.
okay. The
Iran.
palette goes way too red so much in this series. It's just, and you start losing details. Characters
Yeah.
start
That's just, a
becoming
lot of the signature jock detail wasn't there, and
exactly.
maybe it was
exactly.
washed out by the coloring. I don't know. That's a good point, actually. But you know what? It's over. So it
And
goes.
even some of the lettering work, like not so much this issue, but in issues 5 and 6, there were moments where they were mixing fonts a lot to achieve and it made it really difficult to actually read a complete sentence.
Well, and if you're like me and you have difficulty reading those red letters on black bubbles, like that sucked for me. But kudos to Sal Cipriano on letters for coming up with that as a way of showing Batman's mental decline into Jokerness, so to speak. It tied the letters into the art in a way that we don't see very often. So, that was cool. But anyway, I think we've all said enough about the Batman What Laughs. So, we'll go on to the last segment. Brian, what?
Send him back to hell, DC.
They ain't done with him yet. Our boy Williamson.
Send him back to hell.
Brian, what have you been reading, and what are you looking forward to?
So I read last week. I decided that I was going to read all the DC and Marvel ones that come out. I did. It was a daunting task, I will admit.
There were only 6 DC books.
No, that was the easy part, but just reading some of them.
There were only 14 Marvel books. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah,
I read like 80% of them.
There's a lot of good books, though. I don't recall which ones I read. Like, there's one that
I liked the Red Hood Annual.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah, like I don't know which one where Batman was carrying around the Joker's head.
Last Night on Earth.
That one was really cool. I like that one, but there's probably
more Snyder fan service.
Yeah. I think that's. I don't know what's coming out because how I read because our folder or bin gets me messed up because I never know what's actually coming out that week or has it already come out. So I don't know what's actually even coming out until I look at the bin.
Fair enough.
Cody tells me what to read now.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh yeah.
Okay. Ken, how about you? What have you been reading? What are you looking forward to?
All right. Obviously, I've definitely been keeping up with Valiant. Killers #2 will be out next month, I think. So I'm pretty hyped to see that. I just finished Punk Mambo #4 this morning, so I'll be writing a review on that. And that is, Colin Bunn is killing it on that book. I don't know how. All right, how do I explain it without giving any spoilers? Okay, so Colin Bunn is not a person that is associated with Valiant characters, and they've always kind of been pretty tight, to the chest as far as their stable of talent.
It's Constantine if she was a punker chick, and also
if Constantine
or into voodoo.
Yeah, if Constantine was a hot chick with a mohawk, and that's pretty much it. And and a bad attitude. That's basically what you're getting. But it's done very well. Colin Bunn easily could have made it like a meme because it could have been like a Gwenpool kind of situation. More yuck and ha-has than actual legit story content, and it actually is very well written, very much in line with what's been set before for the character, and kind of like makes me like, Valiant, why does she not have an ongoing? But anyway, that's enough about her. Livewire #8 just dropped. That is amazing as well. I actually am pretty excited to see what other people think of it because I think it's going to be a very polarizing issue. Just because of how this current arc that Vita Ayala is writing ended. I don't think some people are going to be happy with it, but I think the only reason why they will is because they're not looking at it from the right perspective. But you can read my review, and that'll explain all that. Daredevil, amazing. Invaders, equally amazing. Um,
Life story.
Actually, this is a surprise one that I just read on a whim, and I actually really enjoyed it, and that was Arrow from Marvel. One of the characters from Agents of Atlas, the Wind chick. Arrow, like Aero, like Wind, not like Arrow, like green. Like I can't believe the CW made it to 8 seasons. Arrow. I'm just kidding. I like Arrow. But that book was pretty cool. I had no rough frame of reference going into it because I didn't bother to read Agents of Atlas, this most current one, because I very much love that book, and I felt like it was probably not going to be that great in comparison to the things that have been done before.
Honestly, it had some really good, like, because I was a War of the Realms tie-in. I reviewed it.
Okay.
It had some good, like, when it was at its best was when you were exploring more of the team dynamic, because you're dealing with a lot of people whose countries don't necessarily like each other, like, Koreans and
Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
that was just the.
But there's a moment where they're looking through the cupboard and like, man, all they have is spam, and like all of them look up spam. Like all the Islanders and everything. I'm like, okay, that's damn funny.
Okay, I like that. That might.
It was pretty good.
But as far as for her first outing as a number one, I thought it was really good. It's easy to pick up and just read. It's simple. It's. I don't want to call it toothless because it's not. It's not very risk-taking or anything like that. It's pretty standard superhero, young, female lead kind of book. But sometimes you want just easy reading, something you can just pick up and read, like while you're on the can, and then put it to the side, and then be like, I enjoyed it, and that was worth the money that I spent on it. Let's see, what else? Psylords, also amazing. Fred Van Lente, killing it. If you're not reading that, you should check it out.
Is that book any relation to the old Marvel New Universe Psylords?
No. Well, what happened?
That's just that kind of had me curious when I saw that. The
way I know it from,
wait a minute, I know that.
Was a Valiant title that was not very popular, even when English, I speak it. Even when like Valiant was, and old school Valiant was, popping. To my recollection, I don't really remember anybody being all that excited about Psylords, and it's one of the more obscure ones, and they have not put really any effort into bringing it back in like 20 something years till just now. But it's like a mystery.
Even I don't have that number one. That number one Chromium cover.
Yeah, I don't. That's really the only one out of the 90s Valiant that I don't have it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I have the Bloodshot. I got Turok. I think I have another one.
Yeah. But
very cool.
But quick breakdown on what Psylords is doing. It's basically the first issue is like Saw, and I don't know. Do you remember? I don't know, like Lost in Space or something like that. Like it's a pretty weird mix. Like strangers wake up, they've been kidnapped by aliens, they have powers, whatever. But it's really good. So if you're interested in it, it's definitely worth a read. It's a very self-contained book. It's not related to anything else from Valiant, so you can just read it on its own without having to worry about being lost in the sauce. And I think that's really about it for the most part as far as what I've been reading that I've been really enjoying. Oh, no, that's a lie. Captain America. I binge read that because
Did you read it all?
Yeah, I'm caught up now. The last issue that I was actually keeping up with in time was number 4. So
man, yeah, you've really been missing out.
Yeah, so
you hit the good shit, and then the better shit.
Yeah. Coates, man, that dude's the truth. Like, I don't know where
Yeah, he
Marvel
is.
found him. He is. That dude is legit. Even though I'm not super big on like Wakanda in space, it's still dope. The concept of it I don't like, but the book itself is still good. Anyway, though, all right, that's enough out of me.
All right. Thank you, sir. And I'm just going to say again, thank you for jumping in and guesting with us this week. I'm not throwing you out. JJ, what you got, man?
Let's see. This week I started. I finally got the last two Camelot 3000 issues I was missing, so I started Camelot 3000. Like halfway through it. Yeah, and then I also started the 1987 Captain Atom series, which I'm like half a dozen issues into. It's pretty good. Definitely some twists and turns I wasn't expecting out of a Captain Atom book.
Right?
That run
Although,
is
really, what is there really to expect out of a Captain Atom book at all?
I thought it was just going to be like, saluting the flag and
Yeah,
subvert
zapping things.
Stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Captain America, but spying on the Avengers. That's kind of what I expected.
A jerk.
But yeah, it's super interesting the way the way it's played out so far in the first few issues. But Camelot 3000 is pretty good too. As for what I'm looking forward to, oddly enough, I really enjoyed the Web of Venom Funeral Pyre issue last week, and it got me shockingly excited for Absolute Carnage next week. So I've been reviewing Venom since day one, and since I was reviewing Venom back when the first of these Web of Venom one-shots came out, I just kind of figured I had to review it since it had Venom on the title. So I reviewed, was that Venom, where it was Venom showing S.H.I.E.L.D. sanctioned symbiotes in the 60s. That was pretty cool. And then they did, then there was Carnage Born, something Unleashed, Venom Unleashed, maybe, which is about the dog Venom, which was pretty cool. I'm like, Unleashed, okay, that's damn funny.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then there was Cult of Carnage, and now we're finally into Funeral Pyre, which featured Mania and some. And interestingly enough, I think Flash Thompson might be coming back, which I'm sure nobody thought he was permanently dead after reading Amazing Spider-Man 700, but they did let him stay dead for at least a year, for a little over a year, so that's pretty good in this day and age.
Right?
Yeah, right. But the book had some amazing, like, Carnage actually was in the book and just killed the shit out of a bunch of people. Like, it was a legit,
Yeah.
No, I know, but up to this point, Carnage has been like
for
in
27 years now. That is what he does.
What I'm saying, the Cult of Carnage issue, he was standing in the back with a robe for most of it, just absorbing people, like, passively, and then at the end he took his robe off, and then it, like, cut to black. Like, it was, all the action took place off scene, or off page, and prior to that, he was dead. So, because he got ripped in half and thrown into space.
Oh, yeah. That was a whole thing that happened and got retconned pretty quickly.
No, he had robot feet for a while.
Oh, did he really?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Clayton
No,
Crane.
when he was brought back, he had fucking robot feet.
Yeah.
Fucking Marvel.
Who gives Cletus Cassidy robot feet? That's what I want to know.
Just leave him dead.
Why
or
not?
float in a tube or something. You know.
Someone brought him back and gave him robot feet.
Why the
But
hell?
no, it was actually really funny though, because during I want to say it was Carnage USA. It was during the period where Flash Thompson was Venom, and so he was paralyzed also. And there was a point in Carnage USA where his robot feet broke, and we had a paraplegic fight.
Yeah, that's stuff you can't do in
That's
2019.
messed up, and I love it.
Well, that same mini, because they got separated from their symbiotes, and Carnage's symbiote took over a zoo, and Venom's symbiote took over a gorilla. So you had like a carnageized giraffe fighting a venomized gorilla. And they were given a criminally low amount of panels with that Clayton Crane art. There are like 4 panels in the whole mini, and you're like, I just want that. I want an entire mini of a Carnage a Carnage giraffe fighting a Venom
No
gorilla.
less than 4 issues.
No, only it's unreasonable to ask for less.
But interestingly, though,
I want it.
So what Absolute Carnage is, to prime people who have stayed on this long, what Absolute Carnage is Carnage is trying to reassemble Null, the god of the symbiotes, by collecting enough pieces of the symbiote codex, which is contained in the spines of every symbiote user. So every person who has ever used a symbiote in the Marvel Universe is a target for Carnage because he needs their spine. And once he gets X number or all of them, I think he has to get all of them. So he has to kill every former symbiote user. It's a bit lofty of a goal, but
yeah,
it's interesting
Power
enough.
to him.
Yeah, good for him.
Power to him.
But I said in my funeral pyre review, which came out today on the site comic-watch.com, for those who are interested. I said in my review of Funeral Pyre, there's too damn many symbiote users in the Marvel Universe at this point. If they did a little bit of a continuity cleanup and killed like half of them, that would actually not be the worst thing. They already killed Lee Price, who was the knockoff Venom who could make other people into knockoff Venoms, last seen in Venom Incorporated. They already killed off, what's his face from Lethal Protector?
Toxin?
No.
Hybrid.
No. One of them.
There's like 5 or 6 of them that came up in Lethal Protector. But anyway, we'll get into all that more next week when we talk about Absolute Carnage. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. It's just interesting. They have actually managed to kill a few so far.
Good.
All right.
Everyone needs they need a good Scourge cleanup every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. They need a culling.
Damn straight. So, let's see. This last week, I was doing a little bit of traveling, so I was traveling a little bit light, but I did manage to revisit our old friend, and thank you, because Cody's not here to roll his eyes at me, Murder Falcon. Ha! Murder Falcon is awesome, and I loved it even more the second time because I knew what to expect, and so I was honestly going in thinking I would like it less, and I didn't. It's just super fun and enjoyable and knows exactly what it is, and it has lots of fighting monsters, and it's just fun. And it loves metal.
Check out Extremity.
I should check out Extremity. Somebody was supposed to tell me when it was wrapped up and how good it was.
It's already wrapped. It's been wrapped up, but
no, I'm talking about wrapped up reading it.
Oh, I haven't finished it yet. I like the first 5 or whatever I read.
Okay. Yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson is definitely a talent to keep an eye on. As for what I'm looking forward to, Shazam finally comes back this week. And it's about goddamn time. Because this has been a great, very quality book. It's very unique from the rest of DC's output. And it just
got delayed again. Next issue got delayed again, and it's not coming out for 3 months.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Full 12 weeks.
That's nonsense. So maybe it's not coming out. Maybe I'm just going to be sad inside. And my inner Billy Batson is just going to shrivel up and die without getting the fix of this really good, really well done book. But
it's okay. He's getting Jokerized.
It's whatever at this point. So I guess that's it for this week. Thank you to Ken for stopping in to talk Valiant with us this week. This has been episode.
I gotta give one shout. I gotta give 2 shout outs real quick.
Yeah, do it. Shout out.
Chasers. So I forgot we were doing back issues. Okay, so Battle Chasers. I just finished my collection of Battle Chasers. If you've never read Battle Chasers, go do that. Also, Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern. I just bought Emerald, which is the story where Hal Jordan, like young Hal Jordan, gets shunted to the future. And, Kyle's Green Lantern now. He has to find out about the whole parallax thing and so on and so forth. I don't know how I missed that growing up because I grew up reading Kyle mostly. And but that was pretty awesome to read. And just in general, if you have not read like the Judd Winnick, Ron Mars, era of Green Lantern, you are cheating yourself, and you should pick it up because it is awesome.
Totally. I grew up on Kyle. He's the best. Sorry, Hal fans. Ryan,
It's my favorite, but Kyle's
wanna take
pretty.
us
It's all
out?
about Guy. You all get out of here. Best Lantern.
Second best. Third,
Best Lantern.
Al.
Arby's muted, or he'd be agreeing with me. You see, Guy is so awesome. It makes me and Arby agree.
Yes.
Best Lantern.
B?
He already went. Hopefully
Did he?
muted.
No, he's still there. He just muted. I don't think he realizes that he's muted.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I've told him like 3 damn times. It's stuck? Is it stuck? What's that? Come on, old yeller.
You can do it.
Come on, dude. He's gone.
All right. Well, this has been episode 40 of Comic Watchers Show. Thank you for
Halfway
listening.
to 80.
I know, halfway to 80.
There.
Thank you for listening. Comic Watchers Show is part of comic-watch.com. You can find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, all kinds of fun places. So until next week,
Except for Cast
bye.